Hello? I think I might have had myself on mute. Can anyone hear me? It's right on 2 o'clock now. I see we do have one person in the chat besides me, Amy Todd. But if you can hear me, please go to the chat on the right side of your screen and say hi. I need to wait for confirmation that folks can hear me before I'm going to start. See, there are 7 viewers. Okay, hi Q. Hi MR. I don't know. For folks that are here, you type into the chat who you are or where you're coming from. Would be nice to know. And also, are you a farmer or what is your relationship with Greenmarkets? It would be good to know. So wait 1 or 2 minutes here and let other people log on. It seems like we have a pretty small group so far. So I'll be right back. All right, everyone. Let's get started. I'm definitely like to be a on-time person, so please get started. No one told me where you are coming from or how you're related to the green market. So if you can do that now, that'd be great in the chat. Let's make this as back and forth as possible. I've done webinars for many years now, and it's always funny like that. I feel like I'm just talking to myself in my office here. So let me know that I'm talking to someone, and I'll give you a much better presentation if I know that I'm talking to someone and not talking to myself, because I know this stuff, so I want to make sure I'm able to tell some of you guys about it. So this presentation is using the internet to drive farm sales, and thanks for Greenmarkets for having me, and I hope that you can use some of this to drive sales at your Greenmarkets. Okay, I'm still not getting any chats from anyone. I'm feeling very alone over here. So, okay, Pamela, thank you. I know there is somewhat of a delay, so that can definitely happen. But as you're going along, it sounds like people can't hear me. As you're going along, please ask any questions in the chat, and I can stop to answer them. Because that's the whole idea. The whole idea of doing this is to have it be nice and interactive. So the sponsor of this is my company, Small Farm Central, and we provide technology services to small business farmers. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do at the end. But in the end, this is not definitely, this is not a sales pitch. We do have products that you can buy if that does seem good to you, but in general, this is about education and about creating more more economically viable small farms. So I just want to tell you a little story about me, give you some idea of where I'm coming from. I grew up on a small farm in southwestern Pennsylvania, and this is just a little story that sort of came up as I have had kids over the last couple of years. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and so now when my mom comes to visit, she tells the story and she sees how sort of harried we were, especially in the first year of our first child's life, how harried we were, and she was thinking back to the time after I was born and how she was milking 7 goats a day, and so she would feed me as a baby, and then she would put me in a basket and then run outside, milk the goats really fast, and then come back inside and have to take care of me again. And she was just saying how crazy that all seemed. And it sounds crazy to me too. But here's a picture of me as a baby with my mom, and I guess that's garden in the background. So today, what you'll learn. How to differentiate your farm or market in a crowded marketplace. So some of the sort of hard things about being a farmer's market, selling at farmers markets, and what you can do to ease that. Why social media is not a silver bullet for farm marketing. So so we'll talk about that. A schedule that you can use to almost automate your marketing during the seasons that you're really busy. And I think that's one of the best things that I can teach you today. And also what kind of content resonates with people. So how do you figure out what you should post, and how do you improve that over time? And so you're probably saying, well, who is this guy and what does he know? So, and I think that's a very valid question. And I grew up on a small farm. I was more of a more interested in technology and computers and programming growing up, but I did later come back to farming because after college I ran a small farm, a CSA, and a farmers market operation in Colorado. We had 130 member CSA. We did 5 farmers markets a week, and so that was a great experience to really get down and dirty in the business and really understand it. And so after that was over, I started Small Farm Central in 2006, and in the 9 years since, it's been 9 years. That's amazing, and we've worked with over 1,000 farms on the technology needs and marketing needs. So I've seen a lot of different farms and what they've done. I've seen a lot of really successful farms, and honestly, I've seen a lot of very unsuccessful farms with the marketing. So hopefully, I can sort of impart some of that knowledge onto you. And also, I market my own company online, and so that's what you're seeing right now is some of the marketing that we do. So I think that lends some credence to what I'm saying. So what's going on in local food? I'm just bringing a couple statistics. This was out of this is from USDA data, and the local food movement has peaked. And this is the change in direct-to-consumer sales between 2007 and 2012. And so if you see yellow, that's where sales have actually decreased. If you see gray, that sales have sort of stayed the same. And if you see some purple, that's where sales have really gone up a lot. And so what do you see here? I think that obviously you see a lot of actually decrease and a lot of little change. And so this is during a time when we've been hearing more and more about local food in the media, and there has been a lot of interest in local food. So what's happening? I think that it should be noted that this is direct to consumer sales. So there are a lot of sort of food hubs, distribution companies, and things coming online. But this is showing that If you're selling direct to customer, it's hard, and it's not the water's not rising as fast as maybe it seems like it should be. And then one thing I should note, and I don't know how much you're seeing this in New York City, and if you're selling outside of New York City, it'd be different too. But there's a lot of ambition in the food space. There's a lot of actually Silicon Valley money going towards local food. And so this is just these are startup. This is funding in the food tech and media industry in 2014, and this is $260 million was invested in food startups in November 2014. And so my point here, and obviously you don't have millions of dollars to spend on building your business, but these companies have a lot of money to sort of get the marketing right, to get their distribution right, and I think we're going to see more and more competition in the local food space. And so we need to think about, as direct to consumer farmers, we need to think about how we're selling to them and what our differentiating factor is. So a lot of these companies are going to be doing to door-to-door delivery. And so why is someone going to walk out to the farmer's market, or why is someone going to join a CSA instead of just getting something delivered to their door that they order on an app? Because you're never going to be able to be a better marketer than a company that has millions of dollars a year to spend on marketing. You're just not going to do that. And I think there are ways for you to compete, but it's it's not on being a better marketer necessarily. So I also like to think of the competitive landscape that people make food decisions in. I think this is really important to think about. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of money spent on food every day, and people are making decisions on how they spend that money. Are they going to go to a restaurant? Are they going to go to their local grocery store? Are they going to buy food on an app and get it delivered to their door? Or are they going to go to a farmer's market and get it? And so really you're competing with all these different things, or that's a competitive landscape. I wouldn't call them competitors, because as local farms, we're not trying to serve everyone, right? We're not trying to serve 100% of someone's local food dollar. There are a couple CSAs that do that. It's called a full diet CSA. I don't know if you guys have seen those. Those are really interesting. Those are actually trying to take 100% of people's food dollars. But for the most part, we're not doing that. And certainly with farmers markets, we're not trying to do that. And so I think it's just important to think about the decisions that people make on a daily basis, and think about that. Why are they buying from a farmer's market instead of buying from the regular grocery store, or just going to a restaurant? Like what goes into people's head? And we'll talk about that. So, and for example, I don't know if you've seen this service called Blue Apron. Let me full screen this. Sorry. Okay. So a service called Blue Apron. You may have seen this. They actually sent me a mailer the other day, so they're obviously spending a lot of money on marketing. And so they will deliver meals to your house with perfectly apportioned ingredients, and they're healthy meals ostensibly, and all you have to do is sort of throw them in a frying pan and cook them up. And so, why is someone going to buy a CSA share instead of buying this? Why are they going to go to a farmer's market instead of buying this? I think it's really important to answer that question. And so how can you compete? I think that it's important not to compete on price. You're not going to beat people on price. You need to be a great communicator and a great marketer. So one thing that I think about is, if you're going to sell direct to your consumer, you're getting 100% of the food dollar. If you sell at a farmer's market, you take home 100% of that, rather than you could just as easily sell to a distributor and maybe you'd get 50 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar, something like that. And so that difference that you're taking home, part of that is the spend that you're spending on marketing, whether it's just being at the market and paying for those hours at the market, or having a nice website, or having a nice ordering system, the different things that go into that. So it is important to be a great marketer if you're going to sell direct to consumer. And if you're not convinced that you can be a great marketer, well, maybe you should consider selling wholesale, or doing something where you don't need to be don't need to be that marketer, and you can just focus 100% on the growing. And being thankful. So really being thankful for your customers and showing them that they're an important part of your livelihood. Where you are going to compete against these other services and against grocery stores is the authenticity that you have. A lot of these different distribution services may say that they're supporting farmers, and some of them may be, some may not be. But if they're buying directly from the farmer, 100% of that food dollar is going to the farmer, and so that's really where you can compete on, and telling people your story, telling people the way you that their money is supporting local farms, it's supporting good labor practices, it's supporting good, farm husbandry practices. And then competing is also, especially with marketing, is that things will change. So you need to keep learning. And by being here during this presentation, you're definitely learning. And so keep that up. That's great. This is a really interesting thought, again, in the idea of how we compete with some of these different services over the long term. And, this may not change, these extra competitors, like some of these really farm-focused ones. I know you have Farmigo in New York, and you have Good Eggs, and hopefully they can become a good customer for you. But if you're going to sell direct to consumer, and this is something that Farmer John from Angelic Organics said, he's sort of a famous CSA farmer. And what he says is that the relationship that a customer has, that relationship has to be with the farm and not the food. And so what this means is, if someone's relationship is with the broccoli that they get from you, that they buy from you, then that can always be abstracted out. They can always get good broccoli from somewhere else. They can get, probably soon they can have it delivered to their door, especially in a really dense area like New York City. That's probably going to become even more and more possible. But if the relationship that they have is with the farm, it's with the people that work on the farm, it's with the land, and then this great food comes out of that farm, then no one can abstract that relationship away. And so I think that's really important, is stressing with people that they're buying from a farm, buying food that's grown in their local area. It's grew in a particular place, and it's not a commodity. And so if the relationship is with the food, you're always going to be commoditized out of that relationship. And so we'll talk about how to, I think a lot of this presentation here is how to keep that relationship with the farm, and what are the specific techniques that you use to do that. And so another thing that you should really, that can really sort of start to focus your marketing, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but is to have your customer profile in your head. It might be a couple different customer profiles. And so, as it says in this slide, it says your customer is not everyone who eats. That's too big. There are specific people that buy from you, right? They might be people that, there are different kinds of farms, so I don't know where you'll fall in this, but some farms might focus more on the heirloom varieties and the really interesting vegetables, or things like that. And so those people might be more on the foodie end of things, or so that's one way. And so once you know what your perfect customer looks like, you know where they hang out. So they might hang out at yoga studios, they might hang out at CrossFit gyms, or something like that. So it's really important to sit down and think about who your perfect customer is, and not just everyone's your customer. You can sort of focus your marketing on specific people, because you just can't please everyone. And as a farmer, you don't need to. you have such a big market because everyone eats. I'd love to get some comments in the chat. So if you have any stories to tell, or whatever, let's make this a conversation. This is an interesting statistic. This is, you could check this out a little bit more later, but this is how to win at local. That 96% of consumers say local food is grown or produced within 100 miles of the point of sale. And then 93% of consumers associate local with fresh. What I really was interested in is this advertise local more area. It says 34% of people are willing to make a special trip to buy local food. And that's what we need, right? We need people that are willing to make a special trip because that's what it is. That's what coming to the farmers market usually is. It's making, they're still going to probably have to go to the grocery store. So it's making an extra trip in people's weeks. It's already really busy. And so 34% of people would be willing to make a special trip to buy local food if they knew you had it. And 2/3 said they'd feel motivated to buy local if they were notified by promotions about in-season products. And so that just goes back to the communication, making sure you're having good communication with your customers. Because if you communicate with them, then you can have a chance of getting their business. Now, this is really interesting too. This is from a couple different studies, I believe. This is sort of an amalgamation of different studies. But this is the willingness to pay for local food, a percent premium. And so you can sort of see that people are willing to pay a premium for local food. This is tomatoes, apples in Vermont. I say that like it'd be great to be an apple grower in Vermont. You have 80% premium for local food, so that's great. That's what we want to. That's what we want to sell on. Okay, so let's see. I'll just skip through that. I'd like to know what has been your best marketing approach. I know there's a lag on this, but it'd be great to know in the chat what is your best marketing approach. I'm not getting many chatters here. That's a little disappointing for me. It'd be great to hear from you. Let me see how many people are viewing. Just a moment. We have 12 viewers. I think we had 42 people register for the webinar. So I'd like to see a couple of chats on what is your best marketing approach. We see a lot of people having success with, what we say, success with Facebook, word of mouth, and email lists. Those are cited as the top tools in a survey that we did. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about social media. I know this is an area that a lot of people are pretty interested in. And so this is a great post from a farm called Yeehaw Farm in Pennsylvania. And the post is all about how she has an older father who lives on the farm, and here he is sleeping in the sunroom. That's the picture. And this one chicken comes to the door every morning. He pecks on the door to knock to be let in. The farmer lets him in, and then he pecks on the door to get out. The farmer feeds him in the middle. And so this is just a great story. It's got a great photo. It's an authentic story about life on the farm. This is connecting people to sort of the multi-generational life that she is leading on this farm. And this farm got, at the time of this, was 1,084 likes, 149 comments, and 130 shares. And so this is something that just had a huge reach for her. And so that's what I would take from it. If I were you, I would take that photos are really important for social media, and that authenticity is really important. And if you should follow her on Facebook, because she has a great Facebook account, and you could definitely learn from her. She definitely goes more towards the probably oversharing, and you may not be comfortable with that level of sharing, but I'm just looking at Pamela's thought. She says, I think our best approach is to personally be at the market so people can talk to the farmer. I love that. Yeah, that's neat. I had one farm that was telling me they had like great CSA retention. One thing that they said was that they really encouraged, it was employees who staffed to pick up. I think they worked on the farm too, so it wasn't the actual farmer, but they encourage the employees to start to know their customers' names. And so that's really important to the farmers to be able to say, hey, Joe, welcome back. Did you like the beets last week? And that's the kind of rapport, knowing people's names, really remembering people, that's going to keep people coming back over time. And so even if you're not able to be there at every market, as you're probably a farmer and you have work to do, if you can make that part of what your employees do, that can be really important. Thanks, Pamela, for chiming in there. I know I've got at least one listener. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about three main things today in our farm internet marketing toolkit. We're going to talk about website, email lists, and social media. And so I'm actually going to be putting a whole book out about internet marketing for farms. Just a second. Excuse me, that was a sneeze. Okay. So I could talk for all day about this, but I'm sort of just going to be talking about these three things, which should point you in some good directions. So, question: do you need a website? What do you think? I hope a lot of you have websites. Um, I think in this age where social media has become so big, you can some people just have a Facebook page, or maybe just put a phone number up somewhere. And I really don't think that's good enough if you're going to sell direct to your customer. And you have these great farmers markets in New York City, so maybe if you're selling all you can there, then you don't need a website. But if you're really serious about getting connected to your customer, then you're going to need a website. Two reasons: because it's for professionalism, for one thing. If you don't have a website, people are going to think you're not serious at the way you produce your food. Is essentially what it comes down to. It's a signal for your professionalism. And you should get your own domain name like yourfarm.com. This is earlymorningfarm.com. And even if you set up something really simple for now, later on, I'm looking at Edith's notes. She says, I agree. It really helps to have someone who works at the farm to make a connection with the customer. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Or at least someone who, even if it's hard to get someone who works full time at the farm to come to the farmer's market, at least maybe it's a requirement for the people who work at the farm stand to come out a couple days during the season, so they can be conversant with the customer about that experience. Okay, so the website's really important for professionalism, but it's also the last step in becoming a customer. When people really get serious about starting to support your farm, whether it's buying a CSA share, it's forming that deeper relationship with the farm, they're going to check out your website. They're going to search you on Google. And so what comes up? And this is the time when people are really open to learning about who works at the farm, your growing practices, everything. So this is when they're really going to be spending some time on you. In the day-to-day sort of social media, they're not going to want to spend so much time, and I'm not going to recommend that you write. We'll talk a little bit about how to craft a social media that works and it doesn't take too much of your time. But a website's where you can sort of go long. Okay, so I think, yes, you do need a website. Some things that are nice about this website are an About Us link here. And I love, a nice strong logo, lots of really good imagery. And so images are really important throughout. And then recipes. We'll talk a little bit more about the importance of recipes as we go along here. And people can actually pay online here to join the CSA. If you can do anything like that, let people pay online, take people's credit cards, take people's money, make it easy for people to pay you. And then, so if you have a site, this is not really important, but some ways to think about building a site. We have a service where we provide a farm website builder, and we host the sites and support the sites and everything. So that's through us, Small Farm Central. You can check us out. You could also hire a designer. One thing that I've seen people have a fair amount of success with is maybe sending an email out to your customer base and saying, hey, we're looking for a new website. Would you be willing to trade produce for helping us with that? And that can definitely work. I've seen that work a lot of times. I've also seen it not work a lot of times, especially getting people to actually get the website out can be difficult to finish it. They might start it, but not finish it. Or what happens when that person leaves in 1, 2, 3, or 4 years? What happens to that website? And there are some other services out there that are more sort of general business services, which you may have heard of. There's probably tons of them, but Squarespace and Weebly are two that come up a lot. So you can check those out. But yeah, get a website. Your next topic is an email list. So I'd say email marketing is not the most sexy form of marketing these days. People aren't talking about email marketing all the time. You probably hear a lot about Facebook marketing and things like that, but I still really think email marketing is the king, because you're reaching people in their inboxes. So, you know, I think this might change over the next 5 to 10 years, but for the most part, people still have email addresses. They still check their email, and so you're reaching them right in the center of their sort of internet lives. Another thing I really like about email marketing is there are no gatekeepers. So once you have someone's email address, you can email them. And that's not the same with something like Facebook. Like if someone likes you on Facebook, they're not necessarily going to see your post. Those Facebook decides whether that person sees your post. And so you're sort of you're at the mercy of Facebook. And in the end, you might have to start paying to have those people see your post. But when you have an email address, you can email them. And I also, it's from what we see generally, it's a higher likelihood than social media that your update will be seen. And so we see what we're looking at is open rates of the email, and open rates between 30 and 50% should be totally doable for you. And so, that means if you send an email to 1,000 people, 500 people would open it. And it's much lower for social media, especially things like Twitter. It's much lower. And I have some stats on that going forward. But so collect email. And that's one thing. If we go back to this early morning farm, at the bottom of their website, they have a way to get people on the email list. And I would probably encourage them to actually make that more prominent. Make that one of the main things you want people to do from the website. And that's an important thing. So what is the next step? When someone's on your website, what do you want them to do to deepen their relationship with you? I would say that getting their email address would be one of the most important things you could do with the website. Because even if you can sell something through your website, say like a CSA share, it's a little harder with farmers markets, but with a CSA share, people may not be willing to drop $600 right then, but they might be willing to give you your email address. You can build a little more rapport with them, and then in a couple weeks, a months, years, they'll be ready to buy from you. So yeah, so that's why email marketing. Okay, so I show this here is collecting email addresses. Definitely collect email addresses from your website. At the farmers market, put out a little list so people can sign up to get an email from you. Tell them what to expect. One email per week with what's going to be special that week. Those are two really good ways to start getting email addresses. And when you start doing email marketing, I'd love to know on the chat if anyone is doing email marketing to this point, if you have an email list. I see a fair amount of people who send their email, they maybe just copy and paste the email addresses into the BCC field of their email. That's not good. Please don't do that. I mean, if you have a list of 50 people, maybe that's fine, but you'll start to get on spam lists. Maybe some of those emails don't get through. And so that's not really a professional way of dealing with the emails. You should use a service. MailChimp's a really famous one. Constant Contact is a famous one. We provide a email service with our websites that you can use. And so what's important here also is to, especially when you're doing farmers markets, if you're doing multiple farmers markets, start to segment your lists. So then you can do that with a service, one of these services, very easily. Is you want to know when someone signs up for your email list, you want to know what farmers markets they go to. So you can, and we'll talk about that, when you're setting up your schedule, you can really confidently reach out to those people and say, hey, you're at the Union Square Farmers Market. I know that, and I'm going to send an email at the right time for that farmers market. So with email lists, a question that often comes up is, how often should I send emails? And people get worried that they're like overburdening people's inboxes. That's one of the main things. Don't worry about overburdening people's inboxes. People can unsubscribe if they want to. It's usually a worry that people have, but something that doesn't really come up very much for actual customers. If they don't like the email, they will unsubscribe or they won't read it. And So what I would recommend is while you're selling things during the season, that might be year round or might be just certain months of the year, that you can send one email, at least one email per week during the season while you're selling. Include a recipe. I think this is really important, especially as and again, I think I talk about this later, is that people just don't know how to cook. And so we need to give them really simple and easy recipes. So include a recipe each week. Segment the lists. So this is segment them into different farmers market lists. That should really be your goal. And you want to send one email 24 hours before the markets. You can also do CSA reminders for this, and keep the email short. I think you see some emails that are like more of a newsletter style where there's 10 different things going on. I don't think you want to do that. We'll talk about what to put in there, but yeah, so let me just save that. But just keep it short. Don't say too much in these emails. Okay, and so here's an example of what to put in the emails. So what I recommend as you're crafting sort of a weekly schedule for your emails throughout the season is to create one piece of content each week. And this one piece of content will be one photo and one paragraph of text. And so this is a perfect example that I pulled off Facebook from Bossy Acres, which is another good farm to follow if you're looking for great marketers. These people, they're in Minnesota, I believe. They do an awesome job with marketing. And so she has this photo of a wolf sighting to the west of her sheep and goats. And so that's great. It's short, it's to the point. And especially this is put on social media. And so as people are scrolling through social media, they can quickly read that. And the same with email. Like imagine the moment that someone's reading email. I was thinking it's probably someone like standing in line at the bank, right? Waiting to put a check in the bank. And so they're just scrolling through their email. They're not ready to read a 2,000 word, diatribe from you. But if you have just one photo with a little bit of text, people can digest that quickly, connect to you, and then move on. And so this one piece of content can be put into your email list. It can be put into any social media that you do. And so this is a really important part of the marketing strategy that I advise. Okay, so the third part of this is social media. And social media is not a silver bullet. And so this is some stats on how many people actually read a Facebook. It's different things, but there's the organic reach. So the first one is organic reach for Facebook pages is down to 4%. So that means that if you just post something on Facebook, 4% of the people will read it on average. Facebook sort of has a whole algorithm that decides who sees things. So some posts may be more successful, but on average, a lot of people don't see them. And Twitter, I think, is even worse than this. It says fewer than half of all Twitter users visit the site daily. And so that's why I recommend that if you are using Twitter at all for marketing, that you can post things to Twitter multiple times in a week, the same content, and that's totally fine. And so, yeah, social media, it's not, it's a good form of marketing, but it's not, certainly not the best. So it's not going to fulfill all your marketing needs. So as you're thinking about social media, there's a million different platforms to think about. The top 4 that I think of right now, and this will change. This is why you need to keep learning, because this will change in a couple years. This will change in a year, and I'm probably sort of being old-fashioned about all this, and deliberately so. But there's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram are the top 4 that we've identified as far as what farms use. I really like Facebook as a marketing platform. You're reaching the widest. You're reaching the widest range of people. These are usually more, these are more of an older crowd. There's people actually go to, buy from farms. 16-year-olds aren't going to farms and buying from them. So I don't know what social media platforms they're using, maybe Snapchat or something, but I don't see that as something that you would want to focus on. Twitter, I've seen some people have success with Twitter. Not a ton of success. I think that if you're doing this marketing approach where it's very low and I'll show you how we put together a schedule for people. But if it's very low maintenance and you're just posting one post per week, it might be worth having a Twitter page. But you're going to get a lot more out of it if you spend a lot more time on it. And I know you don't have the time to spend. So, Twitter, yes, maybe yes, maybe no, depending on what you want to do, or if you just want to use it really simply, that's fine too. Pinterest, that's one I've seen some people have some success with, but again, it's very specialized, and you'd really have to work on that. I've seen people have some success with having like a recipe page on Pinterest, and that can be pretty neat. Instagram, I'm seeing more and more farms have some success with this, but that's not something I would necessarily recommend unless you know a lot about it. The one you want to do is Facebook. And for all these social media platforms, including email, imagery is central. So this is a great image that the Eaton farm put together, and they're saying this is a rootiforia. So this is put up in the last couple weeks, and so they're sort of encouraging people to eat their root vegetables. And I love this image. And so, yeah, this is a nice thing to do. You can do things like this. Let me go to, is this canva.com? You can do little images, and I'll show you more. You can do much more complex ones than that. But if you see where there's like an image overlaid with some text and it looks interesting, that's usually done. You can do it with a service like this. And if you don't need really advanced skills like Photoshop skills or whatever, you can do really nice things with this service. And so you could do something like that very easily, or something even nicer than that very quickly. One question people have is whether they should be doing social media advertising. And it just depends, again, on how much time that you're going to invest in this. It's probably not real great for a farmer's market if you're just selling at a farmer's market. I've seen some people have some success with it if they're selling CSA shares. And what I love about social media advertising is that you can target very specifically on location, demographics, and interests. So, you can target really small areas around your farm or your farm market, or whatever you're doing, and also on your interests. So you have that perfect customer. That perfect customer really loves, maybe they like this. You can target ads to just people who have liked Facebook, or they have liked Whole Foods, is what I'm trying to say. And so you can start to drill down. And I just want to sort of focus on people who might like my farm. And so you're paying per click. So every time someone clicks on that ad, you're paying for it. And so it's way better than advertising, say, in a newspaper or something, right? Because you're only paying, when something happens. And then if you are directing to your website to buy something like a CSA share, then you can start to track conversions. So you can track when someone clicks, how many people have bought. And so that's when you can start to figure out if it's worth it. One thing, if you're getting into this a little more advanced, is something called retargeting that's really cool. And so what you can do is put a piece of code on your website, and that will tag them so you can show them an ad later on Facebook. And so that's a way to get people who are interested in your farm and get them to actually buy by showing them ads later. That can be really cool. And one thing people have a question about Facebook ads is whether should you do a Facebook post? Should you boost a Facebook post that you've already made, or an ad? I did some research into this, and it doesn't matter which one you do, as long as you target on location, demographics, and interests. And you're going to need to play with these over time. You'll maybe run one ad for a week, and then run a different ad for another week, and just keep playing with it until you get something that works. So here's an example of one of these cool images that you can make. I love this one. This is Henrietta the hen in a holiday sweater, and she says, "Season greetings, farm friends." And she posted this on Facebook, and this got a lot of shares. And this is from Scenic Pastures Farms in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. And she said she got 4 CSA signups just from this one image, and they only had 20 members that year, so that was a huge percentage of their signups. So sort of a neat little story about what you can do with social media. Okay, so This is one thing that I really think that I can give you today that'll really help your marketing next year is to create a weekly schedule for your marketing. And so what I recommend you do is put on your calendar once a week, maybe 1 to 2 hours that you're going to be working on your marketing. So it's say Monday morning, maybe Tuesday morning, whenever it is. You're going to put that time in your calendar and say these hours I'm going to work on content and scheduling my posts to go out. And so what you'll do is you'll create that. So during that time, first you will create your content for the week, and that's the photo with the paragraph of text. And so you're going to look at the photos you took during the last month. All right, you've lost the sound. Hello. Hear me now. Okay. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. It's showing sound going through. Okay. So have I lost everyone? Hello? Can anyone hear me? As I'm seeing Can anyone hear me now? It should say scheduling tools. Still no sound, huh?